I'm Chris Lee of the Southeastern 14 here to break down 4 early games on Saturday of the SEC's Week 3. These games involved Texas A&M, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Missouri. I'll go by each one at a time just shortly and just give you an overview of some things that I took away from these 4 games. Now, first of all, these were games against overmatched teams, so you want to take all that in context, but I did have some takeaways that I think could be interesting out of each of these games. First of all, for A&M, which beat New Mexico 34-0, the defense continues to be really strong as it has been all year. A&M allowed 132 yards on 69 plays. That's under 2 yards per play. Former Kentucky quarterback Terry Wilson played quarterback for New Mexico today. He really struggled, and so the Aggies had a lot to do with that. Offense, that was another story. Jimbo Fisher was not pleased after the game, and after watching this, and frankly, of the 4 early games, this is the one that I watched the most. I can understand why he was not pleased. Now, he spent a lot of his day screaming at Zach Calzada, their quarterback, who I thought played fine. He was 19 of 33 for 275, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. But the offensive line, my goodness, they were brutal today. They could not pass block very well. Calzada was running for his life. They had particular issues over left guard as I watched. And you saw after the game, Jimbo Fisher was not happy about it, and he talked about it. He didn't really pull any punches in the analysis of his offensive line later. A&M won this game because of skill talent. I thought Isaiah Spiller was terrific. Devin Achane had a couple of really nice special teams plays, long punt returns that got wiped out because of penalties. So if you didn't see those, you won't see them in the box score, but they were pretty spectacular when they happened. But the Aggies are going to have to get a lot better before they go to Jerry's World next week to face a very hungry Arkansas team. Now, the most interesting game of the day, it should not have been as interesting as it was. Kentucky beats Chattanooga 28-3. And I still like Kentucky, but it might be time to pump the brakes a little bit based on what we saw today. Kentucky did not lead for good until 10:18 left in the game and didn't really seal it until a Cole Copeland pick 6 after that. Will Levis, we had talked about how good he had been. He was not that great today. 2 picks, 2 touchdowns. That's not what Kentucky needed in a game like this. Chattanooga really shut down Chris Rodriguez Jr., and I think that's concerning because a lot of Kentucky's identity is going to be on the running game. Rodriguez is maybe their most important player. Today he goes 13 for 46, and that's not what I would have expected. But what I did expect, you saw it again today. Wan'Dale Robinson, their wide receiver, was really good. He catches 8 balls for 110 today. Kentucky is 3-0, but that game with South Carolina next week may be going to be more interesting than I would have said a week ago. I want to see how Kentucky responds offensively. I think the defense will be there, but the Cats didn't look great today in a win. Tennessee beat Tennessee Tech 56-0. The focus on this one will be quarterback. I'll get to that in a minute, but the Tennessee defense has been really good in spots. Other than their struggles with Pitt's passing game a week ago, this defense has been good. Now, I get that the games have been Tennessee Tech and Bowling Green, and so let's take that into context. But I think one thing that we wondered about was Josh Heupel being an offensive coach. What would the defense look like? So far, it's been pretty good, and it's been really good against the run, and it was again today. The Vols give up 170 total yards on 62 snaps. Hendon Hooker is going to be the story of this one. He started at quarterback today. He finished last week. Joe Milton's hurt. And frankly, I think that could be a blessing in disguise for Tennessee. No offense to Joe Milton. I hope he is fine and healthy. But I thought Hooker was the better of the 2 options anyway. I think he will probably be their quarterback going forward is my suspicion. Anyway, today Hooker was 17 for 25, a $199, 3 touchdowns, 9 carries, 64, and 1 touchdown rushing. So Hooker, the Virginia Tech transfer, accounts for 4 touchdowns on Saturday. The Vols still 417 yards of total offense. I don't think that's going to cut it against that kind of team. Really, the Vols were not very efficient offensively against Bowling Green either. Now, the running game has been fine at times, but I think you want to see Tennessee dominate opponents like this more than it did. And so, huge test for the Vols at Florida next week. Finally, Florida and SEMO, and full disclosure, I did not watch as much of this game as I did the others, frankly, because it was a blowout from the beginning. Missouri had 685 yards on 71 snaps. Connor Bazelak, their quarterback, who's good, goes 21 of 30 for 346 and a touchdown. But Coach Eli Drinkwitz was not very happy at halftime. He was not very happy afterwards, and I'll tell you why. SEMO ran it 37 times for 310 yards. My goodness, that is not the kind of performance you wanted if you're Missouri. Defense was a concern coming into the year. Defense has been a concern through 2 weeks so far. I think alarm bells have really gone up on that defense right now. The Tigers go to Boston College next week. That game is in Chestnut Hill, and I wouldn't be surprised if BC is a slight favorite in that one. The Eagles are 3-0, but the wins so far have been against Colgate, UMass, and Temple, so take that for what it's worth. The defense has been very good, but I don't know that it's been very challenged offensively. Anyway, those are some of my takeaways from the SEC's 4 early games in Week 3. I'm Chris Lee at the 14. Be sure to visit our YouTube channel. Be sure to go to our site at southeastern14.com as we will continue to have you covered with videos, podcasts, and written content.